A good time of year to look for wildflowers in a woodland is in April and May, just before the leaves start to come out on the trees. 70% of woods in the High Weald are classed as ancient woodlands. They've been continuously wooded since the 1600s. If someone's looking at a woodland and trying to decide if it is an ancient woodland, there are three types of evidence that they look at. There's historical evidence, so for example old maps or estate records. There's archaeological evidence, for example wood banks or sunken trackways through the wood. And then there's also the biological evidence, which is what grows in the woods. For example, what flowers grow in the woodland. The sorts of flowers that you're likely to see if you're walking through an ancient woodland in this part of the country are starting off with the wood anemones or wind anemones, lovely carpets of white, followed by the bluebells. And in amongst the bluebells, you might be lucky enough to spot early purple orchids. And also another early flower is the primrose. Ancient woodlands tend to have more wildflowers in them than other woodlands that are more recent. And that's because they've been around for such a long time. And so when you're walking through a woodland, some of the flowers that you see are clues that it's actually ancient woodland that you're walking in. This is the early purple orchid. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's the first orchid to appear in the woodland in springtime. And it will come up, and you often see it in carpets of wood anemones and bluebells. So the early purple orchid is a tall spike of dark to lighter pink flowers. It also has these characteristic spots on the leaves. This is a wood anemone. It has 7 white petals and yellow stamens in the centre, and it's held above its leaves on a long slender stalk, and its other common name is wind anemone because it sways in the wind. When you walk through a woodland and see a carpet of wood anemones, it's interesting to remember or to know that it can take up to 500 years for a carpet of anemones to establish. So this is a really good clue that the woodland that you're walking in is an ancient woodland. This is a bluebell. It has thin strap-like leaves and then a long stalk and with a spike of blue bell-like flowers at the top. Bluebells do particularly well in coppiced woodland where the wood is cut down every 20 years. And the bluebell actually grows from a little bulb that can lay dormant under the ground without flowering or just with leaves. And then when the light comes into the woodland floor, it sends a signal for the bluebell to flower, which is why you see carpets of bluebells after woodlands have been coppiced. This is yellow archangel. It has a square stem with opposite pairs of leaves, and sitting above the leaves is a ring of yellow flowers. Here we are on a footpath on the edge of the wood, and this is a common place to find violets. This is a violet. It has 5 petals, 5 violet petals, and it's held on a very slender stalk above heart-shaped leaves. It's quite a hidden flower. You have to look quite carefully for it. This is wood spurge. It's absolutely beautiful, almost luminous lime green flowers, interesting shaped flowers that are held on a tall stem. So we're now on the edge of the woodland by a stream, and we found pendulous sedge. Pendulous sedge has a triangular stem, and it has these long flowers hanging down from its stem and very long strap-like leaves. When you brush past the flowers, they're actually very rough to the touch. This likes to grow in wet parts of a woodland, especially along sort of wet rutty tracks. We've produced a free leaflet if you want to know more about woodlands in the High Weald. The Field Studies Council have a really useful guide to woodland plants, which is really light and easy to take with you if you go for a walk in the woods. And if you're really interested and want to really find out more, then you can always look in something like the Wildflower Key by Francis Rose, which is a really in-depth look at all different plants in England. If you'd like to find out more about woodlands and woodland management in the High Weald, then visit our website at highweald.org.